Started. I'm calling to order the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen for May 20th, 2024 at 6:02 p.m. Let's start our meeting with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of May 6th?
I would make a motion to approve the minutes of May 6th.
I'll second that motion to approve the minutes of May 6th.
Any discussion?
No discussion.
None.
Hearing no discussion, all in favor? That would be unanimous. Present to speak. Public participation is encouraged. Speakers are limited by appropriateness, staying on topic and maintaining decorum. Time may be limited to maintain progress. Please request to reserve time during the meeting if you wish to speak to a specific agenda item. Is anybody here present to speak?
Who does mine turn? So Nick Tello, 49 Myrtle. So I want to speak on behalf of my FOIA request. It's been almost 15 months. The previous first selectman had told people that the FOIA was complete and there had not, while there had not even been a hearing that had happened. Since then, the request that went out to the Board of Selectmen office was supposed to be fulfilled. I've met with Peter in the last few months to go through what was believed to be the completion of it. At the time of reviewing, there were pieces of mail that were sent to the FOIA, from the FOIA office to the town hall with the previous administration not even opening some of those pieces of mail. There were a few emails about a Board of Finance appointment. However, there was almost nothing that had been supplied for the most part. Whereas large a project the school building was, the Board of Selectmen supposedly had almost no communications under its previous administration. I find this very hard to believe and have asked Peter to look further into this. Peter was gonna touch base with the IT department. Hopefully there's maybe some kind of update on that. The other concern that I have is that we sent a budget to vote with an 8.6% mill rate increase. This was not fiscally responsible to the people, and I know all three members are better than that. We need to realize that serious cuts will be needed for the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education, but the mill rate should not be over 4%, as people are concerned that they will lose their homes and with how the mill rate is supposed to be going. Let's be financially responsible and keep the mill rate increase reasonable and make unfortunate cuts where we have to. Thank you.
Mitch Sava, 80 Granite Road. I'm here to talk about the budget. I was happy and amazed to see that it was voted down. I wanted to bring to you guys some, I'm gonna, first of all, second everything he just said about the budget. I don't know anything about the FOIA, otherwise it's not second section. The Board of Education, I can't really speak to very much. I haven't had time to really look at that, but I did go over the town budget and I've had some questions, kind of line items. You know, we've got a line item 511 for the dog fund. And I'm wondering, I see a $26,000 spend. I'm wondering, is there revenue to offset that? And what work is performed for that? Like, what does that $26,000 buy us? I don't know if you guys have answers for that or not.
Do you want me to answer during your?
Sure, you can, yeah.
It pays for the animal control officer and the dog pound. And there is revenue to offset it coming back from the state on, dog licenses.
Okay, I didn't see, do we know what the amount is for dog
I'm
license?
sorry, I don't.
All right. Well, I know I checked, it's not going anywhere near 26,000 because, we only have 643 dogs licensed in town. Which kind of surprised me.
Right.
That was the number I got today. So I'm wondering, do they do, like, I know the dog warden is supposed to do monthly checks, kind of drive down the roads, make sure the licenses match up. Is that happening? Okay,
I would.
because if we're spending 26,000, whether the state's giving it back to us or not,
Right,
there's revenue on the table that we may not be getting, that we should be. And that may help offset. I mean, it's small potatoes, but it adds up. I'll move on to my next, line item 512, Parks and Recreation. As a citizen in this town, I would suggest we cut that completely. Looking at the calendar, there's 2 events a week that they manage on a regular basis. I think it's basketball on Sundays, and during the summer you got concerts, and then an occasional yoga class and it's some trips. We have a soccer and baseball programs in this town that run as independent organizations without the rec department. They're very successful. Let volunteers run programs as they wanted. That's how the town used to run these things before we had a rec department. I was actually the rec director years ago, like 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I don't understand why we have a director and assistant director with no staff at a price tag of $94,000. When we just run, like I said, a few programs. It's not like we have something every night of the week and they're actually going to the programs. My understanding is they don't even have to attend the events that they coordinate. So the people running these programs are not the director and assistant director. So I'm not sure what that 94,000 buys us. I've spoke at the finance meeting, so I'll just touch on the fire department spends. I think cuts need to be made there, and I think for the following reason. One question I do have is the ambulance at 622,000. Did we buy an ambulance or what's that?
the town currently owns 2 ambulances.
Okay. All right. And I understand this cost there, and that's also, I know there was some.
That's a payroll cost as well.
Okay,
We,
for the paramedics and stuff. Okay.
no, the EMTs.
EMT,
Paramedics come out of the hospital.
okay, all right. Yeah, that one doesn't bother me. That's an essential service. I was curious about the amount. The 2 fire departments, I've spoken, I'm not gonna kill that because I've already said that at several meetings. You know, but we've got 181 or 161,000 respectively between the 2 fire for each of the departments. The last I checked, we've got 2 chiefs, we've got duplication of expenses that are not necessary there. Either consolidate them or consolidate is the one spend that we pay a line item based on coverage, not their expenditures. And what's necessary. And I know I'm offending some firemen, which is fine. So it's a fiscal thing, it's not a personal thing. And I know that because I've had firemen pull me aside after the meetings and try to explain to me that I don't know what I'm talking about. I was also curious on lines 231, 232, 234, and 235. Those are the fire marshal, public safety. They kind of all fall under that kind of umbrella. Those are separate expenditures. Why is that not included in the fire department? Those are town.
Those are outside the fire department budgets. They are separate departments.
Okay,
So you have a fire, the fire marshal is a separate position that doesn't fall under a fire department.
Okay.
And so is the emergency management director, and I'm not sure what the other.
yeah, I
And a lot of those payrolls are subsidized by the state.
okay,
So we have a spend of $6,000, for instance, we
Yep.
get $3,000.
okay, all right. That's acceptable.
All back to the state.
And I have two more, and these two, I think, go under the, like, tough times, you tighten your belt. We've got to spend for 25,000 for open space, or I think that's money we set aside for that. I would say it's fiscally irresponsible to keep that in the budget. We take it out until we have money to spare. And, I also noticed Board of Selectmen has a 15,000 contingency fund. It started, it looks like last year. I don't know what that's for, but I would also say that kind of goes in the, it's like the family's vacation fund, right? They need a new roof, guess what? The vacation fund goes away. So those are just some cuts that I'm suggesting. You guys know the real numbers, you guys understand the contractual stuff going on in town. And I'm aware there are contractual issues we can't ignore, and we can't say, well, we're not doing that this year. But I do think there are spots in the budget that can be cut. I couldn't go to the Board of Finance meeting this past week, I was not feeling well. The only other thing I had, Board of Education is, and I haven't said this publicly, but I thought about it after the last previous, prior to the budget vote. The superintendent spoke at the meeting. He's very articulate, does a good job presenting himself, but it struck me that when he talked about his, I think it's $8.9 million budget for the Board of Education, what he said was they couldn't afford staples. That an 8.9 million, that they didn't have enough money to buy staples, which I thought was an absolute asinine thing to say. And pretty insulting to the townspeople to think that that's actually the case. I've also since then done some homework and realized that, if we give the schools, the Board of Education money for repairs on the building, that becomes part of their budget. If it becomes part of their budget, it becomes permanent. At least that's my understanding of how the Board of Education budget works. Once you give them money, it never comes back. I think the Board of Education right now is doing the bidding for the work on there. I think the Board of Selectmen should also do bids or should control the bidding process. I object to the project manager being hired. I think the selectmen, the superintendent indicated that he couldn't do it all. That there's no way it would consume all of his time to manage the project. He has two principals and a fairly large administrative staff, so I think there's enough time there between all of them to manage that if they needed to. If not, I would say our Public Works, director could get involved in that as well. But I object to any money being spent on that project manager. As well as I believe they snuck in after school, and I know that's not you guys.
Can I,
Yeah, go ahead.
just hold you up on the Board of Ed?
Yeah, I know you can't.
We have nothing on the Board of Ed. They're meeting on Wednesday night.
All right.
May I
Just come
suggest-
Wednesday?
Yeah, you can come on Wednesday and speak to them on the Board of Ed issue.
All right, point
I
taken.
think that would be more efficient.
But I would ask you guys to be as fiscally tight as you can. I know you guys have been inherited a nightmare. The FOI discussion was enough for me to understand how bad the previous administration's been. But I've said it before, I'll say it again, you guys got elected on the grounds basically because the previous administration was spend happy. And we're spending us into a hole. And I know we have to dig out of that. I just don't think you have to dig out of it all at once. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Christina?
Sorry, Christina Milos, 46 Hull Hill Road. I am just speaking as the chair of the CIP committee tonight, because I am guessing that you're going to be talking about that when you have your budget discussion, and I just wanted to try to implore you to not make the cuts from the CIP plan, but try to find it somewhere else, and specifically from the shock absorber plan, the 1.5 million that is going to be needed to do the projects that need to get done by the deadline that they need to get done by. But I think you all understand the plan and how it works, so I don't have to explain that to you. But I know you're in a tough spot. I know that it's hard to find anything to cut in this budget, and but I just want you to really consider that those projects that need to happen. So Thanks.
Thank you. James?
Hi, James Marshall, Fisher Hill Road. I want to speak to the budget as well, because we've said at this meeting, I just want to correct a couple of things from prior speakers. Not being able to afford staples, the Board of Ed was on a budget freeze for months, because they have outplacements that did the budget this year. We're budgeting for next year, but they still made up that shortfall this year by a budget freeze, by cutting tax spending to the greatest extent possible. Additionally, the capital spending on school repairs does not hit Board of Ed budget. It's not part of their budget. It doesn't come from their Board of Ed budget funding in any way, shape, or form. It's a separate fund. But speaking to that, because of the conversation, I understand you guys are forced with coming up with $125,000 reduction from the Board of Finance meeting on Thursday night. I don't understand how tough that is. Quite frankly, I don't think you have it to cut, just like I don't think the Board of Ed had it to cut in this budget, as hard as this situation is. With that said, you have 125,000 to make up. And I'm basing much of this discussion on your comments, Peter, about how we can't possibly cut funding towards the ongoing emergency services building committee for costs that we haven't incurred or don't even know what they are yet. But we are gonna, the way you phrased it, was gonna be a reduction to exactly what Christina said, the capital reserve fund for the many projects that we need across this town over the years to come. The reality is we have big expenses, across the board, big capital needs that we have to address over the coming years in some way, even if we can't get to all of them. Any of the major projects out there are significant funds to the tune of greater than 10 million, for a fire station or any of the school repairs. They are significant projects. There's something like $50 million on the CIP list, greater than that now. Even if we get to half of it, that's 2 major bonds or 1 really big one. And based on this budget season and the school referendum, this town does not have an appetite for a big tax hit in a single year for a bond. A bond payment on a $12 million bond is like a $3 million increase at a single shot for year 1. Imagine doing 2 of those. The only way we get ahead of any of the needs in town is we gradually increase capital reserve funding at a reasonable level. Great, much more significant than what we've been doing, which is marginal, not even keeping up with escalation. So that over 5 years, we have an nest egg, and we can pay down some of that, and also we have a reasonable annual capital reserve transfer that could be transferred to a significant and meaningful bond down the road. In 5 years, if you put $1 million a year increase into this, you could pay for a fire station out of pocket and still bond a $30 million project. Over 5 years. It really is that important to increase the funding. So I ask you to, as you consider reductions in the capital improvement plan, to consider cutting expenses rather than the savings. Reduce the unknown, reduce the $200,000 to the emergency services building committee. It still leaves $100,000 to go on. At which time, if you need more funding, you can go back before the Board of Finance. I understand the repairs of Station 13. Those repairs aren't coming out of that funding. That's a whole separate ask to the Board of Finance to do anything related to repairing that building. Cut spending, don't pay the town first, keep the funding there as much as we can manage to do. And if you have to reduce, as you're unfortunately stuck with, reduce funding where you can. I have to believe there's $100,000 in a reduced service building committee fund. I think you can almost definitely find $25,000 somewhere else, as much as it'd be hard to, as much as it's still probably gonna hurt. But please consider maintaining capital, maintaining as much as they're fine. So, thank you guys.
Anybody else? Pete?
Peter Littleton, 97 Trask Road. Good to see you all tonight. Just following up on our last meeting together at the Board of Finance meeting, and what the process is moving forward. Now my question essentially is, will we have a public hearing that would precede the town meeting for the next referendum? And I'm assuming is somewhere in the process here for passing out or rejecting or whatever the case may be. I'll comment during President's speech that I think we saw some frustration by the Board of Finance at that last meeting, that townspeople were not engaged in the budget process, yet the same townspeople rejected the budget. Oddly enough, those of us that were at the meeting were engaged, but there was somehow that was not the engagement that was sought. And my sense of it is, getting somewhere here, is that before we have a town meeting, it would be useful for people to understand what's happening with the budget. It was rejected. Where are you guys in your budget making changes? Where's the Board of Ed making changes? And understand all of that before we go to town meeting to discuss it and go to referendum. That's kind of my question. I'm disappointed that when people do engage, and I encourage everyone to come, as I do. But for example, at that last Board of Finance meeting on the Zoom end of the meeting, Linda Minor tried to participate and had some questions about different projects and spending, and was immediately ridiculed by the folks sitting at the table where you are now. And I share this with you because it's very different to see it from this side than it is from that side. I agree with the criticism that more people should get involved, but when people do get involved, often it seems unwelcome. So, with all that said, I think more public hearings are a good thing. Thank you.
You mind if I speak to that? Hey, at this point, we do not have a public hearing scheduled in the process of another referendum. However, at the town meeting, you said that the reason to discuss it for a hearing is to discuss it according to the town's ordinance. Hold on just a minute, I lost it here. The town meeting shall include a discussion of the annual budget. So if you want to discuss the budget, you can discuss it at the town meeting as well as at a hearing. It's written right into the ordinance that way.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Because typically the hearing is informational, we find out what's in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
Then we typically go to the town meeting and say, we're sending this referendum or we're not sending it to referendum, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't have the public hearing and we all show up and we're all looking at this budget and we say, this doesn't appear to be what we want, or just concerns or issues, then we still have the option to send it back to the Board of Finance?
No,
No.
so,
Is the call written in a way where we can't do that
yes.
by the attorney?
Yes, so it's been the same exact call for every referendum leading up to this. The reason for the discussion is your ability to persuade the vote, which is what you want to do at a hearing.
But we have the public hearing, and I apologize for the back and forth, but I think this is very important. When we have the public hearing, typically the Board of Finance then meets to see if any changes should be made, correct?
Correct, and
That's
that's
not happening this time.
yeah, it's happened this budget season though. It's not happening for this vote, but it's happened for.
Even though we're going through a whole new cycle.
It's not a whole new cycle, it's still the same budget cycle.
Okay. Okay. So the only if we could have a discussion, but it's essentially meaningless because our only option is to send it to referendum.
Correct,
Wow,
Where's voted?
that,
right,
I will,
because it's already been through a hearing,
I
and it's
will,
already been through a town meeting. And then it's been through another,
but that was a different, totally different budget. This is a new one. Just an observation, but I get it, I see where we're going and I see what the town's options are. Very few. Thank you.
John,
John Blessington, 29 Mason Road. So what you're telling us basically is that we're going to have the same travesty that we had with the school building vote, where there was no public hearing because nobody had any, and there was no reason for anybody to speak to it, and then we had the town meeting where no one was allowed to say anything. You could get up and say, I'm in favor or I'm against, but I'm in favor because, no, you can't say
We didn't
that.
have a.
that's,
Well,
that is not,
talking.
John, I'm sorry, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you can say what you want to say about the budget at this town meeting. It is a discussion, so you can say what you want to say. There will not be a 2-minute limit. Okay, you can say, you can discuss it.
It's a 3-minute limit.
There's not. a 3-minute limit.
No, there was a.
There was a 3-minute, all right.
Well, 2 or 3, I remember this too, but, okay, just, that was a travesty, and everybody was very surprised when it failed, and then this time, we really never had a big hearing, and everyone was surprised when our budget failed. So, on this vote, so now we're gonna have another vote coming up, and I hope there's no big surprises on that one.
John, there was a hearing.
Yes.
There was a hearing before the last vote.
Right.
That was the hearing where it's the same, but it's the same 24-25 budget. It's not a lot has changed on line items. So I don't know where the difference is. Hold on just a minute, Jen?
Jim Goodell?
I'm at my son's baseball game, so sorry about that. I wanted to just first of all express the fact that I initially appreciated Mitch's refrain from talking about the Board of Ed budget because he hadn't really read it or knew what was in it. And then the disappointing part was that he went on to speak about it, not knowing the actual contents. Yes.
Can I ask you to please speak to the moderator, to the board instead of to an individual in the room?
Okay, are you serious though? Because it's almost 6:30 and the meeting hasn't started yet. Like, this is one of the other things that I wanted to talk about.
Started at 6:02. I'm allowing people to speak.
So everybody is complaining in this meeting about not having public input, a public forum, fill in the blanks, whatever you want to call it. And so we've just spent a half hour with a very select group that's in the meeting right now, having a back and forth with the Board of Selectmen about the budget. So I'm not sure this is an efficient use of our time. We talk about people participating in meetings, and this is a half hour that's gone by that people on Zoom at least haven't had the opportunity to participate in. So I'm just putting it out there. And I think I was under 2 minutes.
Yeah, I don't ask people to stay under 2 minutes, Jen, and we have been watching the hands go up, so we have allowed the people on Zoom to participate. Thank you. Anybody else?
Just had one comment about the previous meetings that I've been at.
Okay,
When you talk about president speak, the townspeople speaking.
Just please say it again, please.
Oh, sure. I'm gonna say about 80 Urbanic Road. I'm sorry. I forgot about that part. When I was at the town meeting, one of the things that was upsetting to me was there were several people that stood up to speak. And the people that were sitting up at the board, a good half of them were either laughing or making side comments and not paying attention to what the townspeople were saying, which to me was very disrespectful. And I just want to make sure when the townspeople voted, even though we had a small majority of the vote, the majority of those people told the town, we want a smaller budget. That's unacceptable, the mill rate. So I understand that we have, things we have to do, but I'm just saying that the town, Board of Education, Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen need to tighten their belt. So, thank you.
Okay. Ralph, sorry, I missed you, Ralph.
Well, that's okay. I just put my hand up. So can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Okay, great. One comment about town meetings. All it takes to put an end to the discussion is someone to move the question. And if the vote is favorable, that will shut out a whole bunch of people about discussing the topic to be discussed at a town meeting. I just want to remind folks of that. That's all. Thank you.
mhm. It is a majority vote after that motion, however. So you
That's
need a
correct.
majority of the room to.
But
Correct.
that may still leave a number of people who haven't had an opportunity to speak.
Yep.
That's the problem. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I fully understand your problem, Ralph, and old Bob's rules get to us occasionally. Okay. Correspondence. There's only one piece of correspondence. It's from a young resident, I'm not gonna share it here. It's a fairly private letter to the Board of Selectmen. And a copy of it has been forwarded to. Yep. So they know what's going on, right? Status report. I would like to, let's see, I had a note on this so I could get it right. I would sincerely like to thank Stacy from the business office and Jason and Lucian from DPW, who represented the union in the recent, union contract negotiations. And Donna from the business office and Rick Rothhauser from the Board of Finance for their participation on the town side, as well as both lawyers, ours from Pullman and theirs from the union, for a tremendous adversarial but not combative negotiation. Neither side, I thought, made unreasonable demands. We came to a conclusion. I can't share that with you yet because the lawyers are still drafting the final language. But we have ended negotiations, and the new contract should be in town 6 weeks before the old contract expires, which is a significant improvement. I'm really happy with that process.
So I think it goes through 3 meetings or 4 meetings.
3, and one of them was just to set the rules. We didn't even negotiate. So I think that both the town and the union got some of the things they wanted, and not everything they wanted.
How long is it for? Is it
It's a 3-year contract. The Public Works report. Public Works is finished sweeping the roads from the recent winter weather. They are grading the gravel roads, weather permitting. They're working on fleet maintenance and service. They're patching holes. They've begun roadside mowing. They're concentrating on the intersections and blind corners. The crew attended a off-site equipment training. They've installed the new monitor upstairs in the common room, meeting room. I think that'll be a significant improvement in that environment, so that both the board that's holding a meeting and the public that's observing it can both see what's going on the Zoom and the recording. And we have completed the AC mini split installation upstairs in the common. We lost 2 of our air conditioners 2 years ago. They stopped working. I had them removed so that the wind wasn't blowing through them. The town hall walls have been patched. So if you get a chance to go up there and look, it's pretty nice. We got to, finish some electrical and wiring work up there and, then we'll get to the floors, which I believe there's ARPA money for. Remind you that Willington Day is this coming Saturday down at River Road. I invite the town to attend, and Memorial Day ceremonies will be at 8 AM on Monday. Let's come together and remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice.
Absolutely. Is that 8 AM or 8:30 AM?
8 AM.
Everybody's gathering at 8, starts at 8:30.
Where? Town Green.
Tamarind.
Starts at the town green, we go down to the cemetery, and then we have some ceremony down there, then we come back up to the town green for a few speeches. Other new, I'm asking your patience while I go over some of this. As we know, the legislative session has just ended, and there was a couple of notable passes and failures. The expansion of shared services between towns, inter-town cooperation, making that easier. The bill failed, unfortunately. There was a bill to require all inland wetlands committee members to get multiple hours of training. That failed. Unfortunately, the online publication of legal notices, which would have saved the town approximately $1,000 per town meeting, failed. So we will continue to support our local print media. There's a bunch of education reform that I wish I could tell you how it went, but they moved stuff from one bill to another bill and then failed one bill and passed the other. Should the town ever be interested in solar farms, they have passed a bill that for every megawatt of generation, the town will be able to collect $2,000, $12,000 per megawatt in tax funding with a 2% annual escalator, so they don't have to keep going back to that number. The street takeover bill for the kids that tear up the street, that bill failed. The bill that would require every town to have a code, ethics code failed. Or we're not sure it failed, we're just trying to figure out what happened to it on the Senate calendar. Senator Gordon is trying to track that down for me to see whether it failed or whether it ended up someplace else. The election security and transparency bill passed. So it requires checking of boxes at the close of polls and absentee ballot counts to be released as soon as practicable instead of immediately after. There's been a disabled veterans property tax exemption. If you have a 100% disability from your service, you have a 100% exemption to your property taxes. I believe that there's 10 people in town that qualify for that. I may be wrong on that number, so don't quote me. And we were surveyed before they passed it. There was a bill to require all towns to go to a .gov website, of which we have already done. Turns out that we're one of about 40 towns out of 169 in Connecticut that have done that, and The other towns can't figure it out, so we're way ahead of the game. Unfortunately, the bill to reimburse ambulances at 100% of cost failed. There was a bill to divert all food scrap from the schools if there was a food scrap recycling center within 30 miles of the school. And one was being built in one of our surrounding towns. It would have cost us a fair chunk of change in an unfunded mandate. That bill failed. If you buy your beverage cans out of state for a nickel, a redemption, a nickel deposit, and try to redeem them for a dime, that in Connecticut, that's now illegal. That local charters doesn't affect us because we don't have a charter. And then there's the bill to designate land as working land or open space. It allows the commissioner of the Department of Agriculture to determine if land is working farmland or open space and inclusion in the 490 program, which I believe is a reduction in property taxes.
Is that county bill?
It passed, it passed. So the Commissioner of Agriculture should be able to, it now has some say in that. That's what I have on the legislature. Why do I have this? Oh, that's for later, sorry. Okay, and I think that completes my status report, such as it is. Which brings us to new business, which is the budget discussion. Would we start the discussion, or would you like to jump in after I start?
I'll jump in after you start. I'll let you go first, there, Pete. You're in the big boy chair, so,
All right. I feel like a big boy.
yeah, it's, well, I will say that I participated in the Board of Finance meeting. You know, I think that overall, not optimal for anybody. That's the nature of democracy. That's the nature of what we are. You know, some folks aren't gonna be happy with the level because it's too high, and some folks aren't gonna be happy with the level because it's too low. We represent all the people in Wellington. So the people have spoken, and the budget referendum failed. It went back to Board of Finance. There were some adjustments made. You know, I will say, I'd like to echo what Andy said at the last meeting. I appreciate you saying that, Andy, which was, you know, whether or not people participate in the process of government, you know, every single time, or whether or not they go to every meeting, or even half of them, or even one of them, really is immaterial. We need to respect the views of people when they want to give them. So to say to someone, you don't get to comment on this because you didn't participate, is wrong. And we really shouldn't do that. So let's respect the other people, no matter what their contribution is. And I'll also say, there's many different kinds of people in our town. And some people are up on stuff and they understand things very quickly, they're really intelligent. Some folks takes a little longer, whatever. We need to treat them with respect. If there's someone says something that you don't agree with, you think is stupid, just sidestep it. Be kind and considerate. And move forward in a team-like manner. That's a long way of saying, I guess, we need to step up our respect for others. And also, you know, in terms of the Board of Finance outcome, we're gonna be talking about that tonight. I think we have, what do we have? We have
I'll get to that in just a second.
I want to get back to you.
All right. You have any opening comments, Andy, or you want me to start? All right, so the budget number that the general government budget put forward in the first referendum was $7,199,808. That failed. That was a 4.4% increase over last year. The new budget number given to us by the Board of Finance, who has the responsibility, right and responsibility to set that new number, is $7,074,808, which is a cut of $125,000. It's a $125,000 less increase than before. It is still
So much.
it is still a 2.5% increase over last year's budget. The old board, the original Board of Education number was $9,877,772. The new number that they've been given is $9,769,217, which is $108,555 less. So, approximately $18,000 smaller. Their cut was smaller, their budget reduction was approximately about $8,000 less than the general budget.
So proportionally,
We got,
we're getting trimmed a lot higher than.
we're getting trimmed higher than the Board of Ed. Our increase was set to be 4.4, it's now set to be 2.5. The budget assumptions that went into the cost are, the other thing that we learned at the Board of Finance was that the investment that our business office has made in our unnamed, whatever, the savings account, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the number, had done way better than expected.
So it's interest on
The interest on our
reserve.
was about $200,000 more than expected. So they've added that number to the line where they're applying the fund balance, that fund balance to the total so that it will reduce the amount of taxation. So our mill rate should not be as much. Right, that 200,000 plus 125 from us, plus 108 from the Board of Ed. So mill rates are coming down. We were able to hold medical and dental. The premium on our medical actually went down 5%. How our carrier did that without decreasing coverage, I don't know. I'm not. Following insurance is not something that I can easily do, so. We're saving 5% on medical, and dental has been locked. Our business office has done a good job at holding heating oil prices and diesel fuel prices down. So we will actually be paying $6 a gallon less for diesel fuel. But we will be, and we'll be paying 4 cents a gallon less for heating oil. So there's that. As you know, the town and school system share costs for the IT service. The town pays 53% of that, government pays 53% of that, and Board of Ed pays 47%. The one thing I was interested in is that a shared service, we share the business office, where the town government pays 100% of the salaries, 100% of the office supplies, and 100% of the software costs.
Oh, so town, so it's group right here, right?
Yes.
So business services, all right, so we're paying for all of that? It's a shared service, right?
Yes.
Oh, so.
Right.
I'm just gonna let that soak in and leave that
Why,
right there.
it's soaked in, I'm like, okay, I didn't know that,
I didn't know that until today either.
okay.
I have spent all day looking at this budget. And so, I hope people realize when I make my suggestion that I am not making it
Right.
easily or comfortably. So we have to find $125,000. The CIP originally had a $1 million shock absorber every year for 5 years. This year, CIP bumped that up from 1 million to 1.5 million. To make sure that they can get what they need done. They have continuously told me that with the cuts in the general government budget, if we needed more money, they could come back and ask. However, I guess that only applies to general government. I'm sorry, that was an uncalled for snarky comment. So with that $500,000, if we cut that $500,000 out of our budget, the general government would be taking a 3% cut, an actual 3% cut, Pete, not off of the increase. We'd be spending 3% less in an economy that with a 3.5% inflation. So we'd have to make do on the general government budget of 6.5% less essentially. So
So we take that from the top again, hold on, I'm sorry, can we take that from the top again? So we're saying that. There's about a 3% inflation rate or something like that, so that's,
Mhm.
we're getting shape of 3% there. And we're also saying that, where's the other?
if they added the $500,000,
Right,
that would bring us down 5.5%.
right,
So it would be another 3% cut.
got it,
So that's the place where I can see the cut. I understand what Mr. Marshall was saying to us, that we have operations and we have capital.
Right.
And he would rather see us cut operations than capital.
and we're cutting
And we've already cut operations 3%,
real,
real. So I would like to see the 125,000
so
come out of that,
the capital.
that capital, that extra 500,000.
And just to be clear, so the CIP was approved at essentially a 50% increase, so.
No, it wasn't, that line item was at a 50%
And that's
increase.
what I mean.
Yeah,
Right, so it was 100,000.
no, it was 1 million.
It
It was 1 million and then it went to 1,500,000.
I apologize, I misplaced the decimal point.
Mhm.
That's bad. So it was 1 million and went up to 1,500,000.
Mm-hmm,
And we're saying, okay, that was a 50% increase.
mm-hmm,
And we're saying we wanted to go up by
385,000,
385,000. So cutting one, what was it, 125?
125,000,
Which means, does that meet our directive that we got from the Board of Finance?
yes. This is with so we've already run out of our tree budget this year.
Which is a problem.
Yes, because we have another 6 weeks to go. And I asked for the same amount again, and they cut $20,000 off of that. Already, so, and they cut my salt budget and the asphalt budget. So those are all operational budgets.
Yeah.
I know this is painful, that 1.5 was set to be added to the one that they 1 million that they saved last year for roofs and HVAC at the schools. And this pains me mostly because I have voted for school roof funding 4 times. As a member of the Board of Finance.
I voted for it once, and the Board of Finance.
I voted for it, I believe, 4 times. I want to see those roofs done. I am hoping for $2.38 million, they can get it done. And I'm hoping that if their bids come in for more than that, that they would go to the Board of Finance for the other money. The additional funding, because I want those roofs done.
It's been what, 5 years, 4 years?
For, I believe, for. Christina?
Hi, I just wanted to point out one more thing. I understand why you're doing that, and but the one thing I don't want everybody to forget about is that it isn't that we increased the overall CIP. We remember to get that extra 500,000, we took it from projects that were supposed to be done this year. So we took it away from other things in order to make it happen. And then those other things got pushed out to the out years, including the fire departments. And so, like, this is not a driver of the increase to your budget or to the overall budget. It's the net number, the bottom number is only a little bit more. I think it was 40,000 more than it was last year. So by reducing it by even a little bit, you're potentially setting it up so that in the out years, other projects aren't going to be able to be completed when we need them to, and that we won't have the cash available this year. But that said, we don't know what those numbers are exactly. We don't know what the fire department numbers are either. So it's hard when we're dealing with estimates, but we know they're all big numbers. So the more we can keep planning ahead, the better.
I thank you for that, Christina, and I understand that. It's just that when we're putting money into things that we don't know what the plan is yet, to subtract from the things that we know are operational doesn't make sense to me. There may be other places in the CIP we could cut, but most of those projects have been in line for a long time. So that's where I stand, and I'm looking for input from you guys. Because this is a decision I think this entire board should be making, not me on my own.
We had another discussion of, and again, a recommendation from the public to consider, and it happened in the Board of Finance as well, to consider funding the fire department building committee at 100,000 instead of 200,000, and they could come back for more if needed moving forward. Is there any estimates on fire department building committee expenses that back that up? If there is, then we should fund it at 200,000. If there isn't, we should consider or think about possibly, maybe cut shaving 50,000. No, not no. We're getting down to very small numbers. So it's all important. They're all big numbers, but we're getting down to very small numbers here.
I had considered that, and the reason I went the way I did was we have firefighters currently sleeping in the parking lot. And that is gonna be money that's gonna need to be spent soon. It's an emergent process. I understand that the roofs are also emergent because they've been in the hopper for a while, but I am facing some grievance issues if I don't get those firefighters indoors in a timely manner. So that was coming out of that, and that 200,000 has been in CIP for quite some time because it was meant to bring Willington Hill up to speed.
Yes.
And we took it from Willington Hill to give to the planning committee, so that plan for 200,000 is already there. That money was already spent and we're spending it on other things already. So that needs to be done. Pete?
Just the risk of interrupting here, wasn't that 200,000 on that committee with you guys? Well, doesn't that include the repairs that we need to make to get those guys out of the parking lot?
Yes.
So it's not $200,000 of the planning money,
Right,
it's probably like 100 and, who knows, how many thousand of repairs that we prioritize for right now, so.
yeah,
But
Thank you.
it's not like fun money, it's
Yep.
a legitimate need.
Erica?
Yeah.
Erica?
Sorry, thank you. Pete, can I just ask a clarifying question? The Board of
Sure.
Finance proposed $125,000 cut to general government. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so the Board of Selectmen budget is only a portion of that general government. Has there been any discussions of cuts across the board that would include fire departments, other planning commissions, elected officials, everything that's not part of the Board of Selectmen budget? Was there any consideration for cuts in those areas?
Yes, in fact, we were just discussing that on the planning, commission for the fire departments.
Pete, I
And
don't mean that. I mean the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Registrar of Voters, all of those emergency services that don't fall under the Board of Selectmen. If you look at your entire budget, those
Right.
shaded areas are not part of the Board of Selectmen, and you have essentially no control over what gets cut. But I understand the tough spot you're in, being responsible for how they're spent. Was there consideration from all of those other departments that present to the Board of Finance to share in some of that $125,000? I don't envy your decisions. I understand why you might be making them. But if we don't start to make some investments in our infrastructure, our roads, our buildings, this problem isn't going to go away. It's only going to increase.
Yeah, that is one of our serious concerns, is that it is going to increase. During the initial Board of Finance discussions, they went through each one of those lines and we discussed the cuts to each one of those departments. The fire departments each already cut out of their budget, even required equipment. We've gone to all these other boards, they've cut enough that the budget for general government is already 3% lower than last year. So that's where we're going.
Thank you.
I think we need a motion on what to cut. You wanna make a motion? You want me to make the motion?
You make the motion, I'll second the motion.
I move that we cut $125,000.
Hold on. So, why don't we do it in turn? I'm sorry for interrupting you. But, it's not cut. I don't mean, it's semantics, but it's like we're spending more money than we did last year. Anyway, say it anyway.
I move that we decrease the increase
Yeah.
of the $500,000 line item in, or $1.5 million line item in CIP by $125,000.
I'll second the motion to decrease that amount, from where it was to what we needed to be. And note that it's still increasing the amount we're spending on.
Do we have any discussion?
I don't have any better ideas, but with all this, I'm not a wealthy man, but somehow $125,000 doesn't sound like very much money anymore. And I would think that that should be able to, it just doesn't. And I would think that if you, and I don't know roofing, and we have people in the room that probably do. Seems that if you were negotiating for $2.5 million roof, I bet you could get $125,000 off with a little negotiation, but I don't know that. It doesn't. I understand, I don't really understand the budgeting process as well as I should.
Can you hold that until
That
after the
doesn't sound
motion?
like much money.
All right,
But help me out with that, what,
I,
am I
uh,
wrong in that?
I
that
don't,
assumption?
I would say no, but I don't know either. I'm assuming the same thing you're assuming.
You know,
But
my
you know what
limited
they say,
experience
right?
when you're
Right.
dealing with, you know. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in contracts, it's often there's quite a bit of negotiation that can be done. If you, that's, it sounds like. Some operations have been cut, it sounds like services to the town, I heard Christina talk about how. They postpone projects that I mean, the CIP are project people want, they're good for everybody. Those were postponed in order to do the schools, which are valuable assets and have to be taken care of too. As Eric said, the infrastructure is very important, but it sounds like some infrastructures were being borrowed from to pay for this one, or for the school one. And I don't have any better ideas.
All right,
But as Mr., sorry, did you say, so, you know, there's $125,000, and you start making these small cuts, like maybe. For the fire department, maybe you could reduce that to 175, you know, or whatever. These are projections, they're not, no one's writing checks yet, so. Perhaps that is a way to take a little bit, borrow from all of those a little bit. And make it less painful for all. You know, but again, how do we know how much things will cost? We know it.
Yeah.
Very challenging.
it is very challenging. It's cutting. 6%. 5% out of that budget, whereas the 7%, whereas 25,000 out of the fire department building would be
Yeah.
25%.
No, right, no,
I mean, that would be a major whack to them.
it would be.
Staff, I'll get to you here shortly.
Yeah, motion.
We are, yeah, that's why I'm.
But as televised, we do it in our own lives, or, you know, we make choices. I mean, I'm just saying, like, all right, how much, I wanted a steel roof, I put a roof on my house, I wanted a steel roof, I can't afford one. So that's off the table for us. They want 60,000.
Time, because I gotta put a roof on my house.
Yeah, so now I'm gonna go with asphalt shingles, 30 years, I'll probably be dead before they wear out, with a steel roof, I definitely would be dead before I wear it. So that's what I was hoping, but they want $60,000, I can't afford $60,000. But again, it's money I haven't spent yet.
Yeah.
But I'm already budgeting for it, so I have to put it in my own very immature little terms, but it works for me.
No, I get what you're saying, and I think that's the way people look at it as well. It's like, wait a minute, you know, how am I gonna do my job?
Right.
You know, I'd love to be able to get the steel roofs that I want, but I can't afford it. And these things that we're talking about are needed. There's no fat in them at
Right.
all.
For my roof, I'm gonna negotiate hard, I'm gonna get 3 or 4 bids, and I'm gonna say, I'm sorry, this is too much. What are you gonna do? You know, how can you get it lower? Maybe they don't put ice dam over the whole thing, maybe they only go 6 feet, maybe they go 8 feet. There's things you do to get that cost down, so,
Yeah.
this is very specific, we're talking for roofs, but we're throughout the budget. There have to be those things frequent, and well, they don't have to be, but I imagine there are.
We call the question.
Yeah, but, hearing no further discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
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 I'm in favor. Aye.
met our obligation, so we're down, 6% real, 3%. It's a tough one.
Yeah. We're at a 2.5% increase. Okay, now that the motion is passed, Stephanie? Stephanie?
Hi, Steph
Hi.
Summers, 4Y Road. Yeah, I think it might be moot now, but I just wanted to point out that the 1.5 million is not just for roofs. You know, it's for HVAC, it's a hugely more expensive enterprise. And the whole idea was to apply and get everything teed up in time to get the full state share on HVAC, which is a dwindling amount. They started loosening up some money for the purposes of schools and other public buildings during COVID. That is a couple of rounds past now. So the funds are not endless. And that was a big reason why we went on CIP from the 1 million to the 1.5 million based on information the school superintendent gave us. I see he's not on tonight, but he might not have been aware that was what was in the works. So I just wanted to point that out. And the other thing is, I'm a little uncertain about the money from the 2 fire departments. I remember to apply to the fire department's building committee. The idea was it would be somewhat like the school building committee, where they had a pool of money for expertise and other needs as they work on a pretty tall order kind of set of issues. 110,000 was already in the budget for this spending year for Willington Hill Fire Department to catch up on its planning for a facility. And that there was a concession at the time that they would be okay with pooling that money along with something like 60 or 80,000 from Wellington 1 that was unspent money on planning also. I don't know what the status is, but I think at any rate, there might be a question about the status of those funds being repurposed, since they were in the 110,000 for Willington Hill was in the existing fiscal year CIP plan and was passed by the voters. So both of those things are just the things I wanted to add, but I think they're both moot now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for your input. Okay, that was unpleasant. Moving on. You wanted to talk to the debt limit?
Yeah, debt limit. I think the Council of Municipalities has a recommendation for what the town's debt limit should be. I don't know the exact rate. Maybe follow up on that and find out what it is. I think, when we went into the school building committee and in that referendum, we were either over the debt limit or very close to the debt limit for towns. The recommended for our towns. That's dangerous stuff. I think it might be helpful for our town to set a debt limit of what we want to do, either through ordinance or policy. And I don't know if the proper place for that is the Board of Selectmen or if that's the Board of Finance. I'm not quite sure, but I think we should move forward with something like that.
I believe when I was on the Board of Finance, it had been discussed.
Okay. Was there a vote on that,
I don't recall. I don't recall one way or another, but when I came into office, I talked to the business office about researching that and coming up with it. And were you raising your hand?
No.
Oh, okay. I was,
That's showing 10.
and,
10 and 12%.
oh, okay. And I I believe that our accountants have also recommended that we have a debt policy. Or debt limit. And, unfortunately, the budget process has overrun that process for now.
That's why there's,
And-
that's why.
But it has been on my radar, and I believe on Donna's radar, since I came into office.
Okay.
We do need to discuss that with the Board of Finance.
Okay.
That I believe is a Board of Finance issue.
Can we, maybe we just send them a note saying, you know,
Yeah.
you take yourself, when your work on the budget's done and.
Yeah, well, let's see if we can pass a referendum first and.
Yeah, right.
And once we do that, then we will discuss. Some of the stuff that, because I know we've been discussing debt limits for at least 2 years. And so I would like to make that happen. I just don't. I don't think. It'd be a motion right at this point. Let's give it put it on our. With what my boss used to call a tickler file, and like 6 weeks, discuss it again. And by tickler file, I mean Shannon's gonna write it down so I can remember it.
Right, she's gonna tip it.
Yeah. God, I hope not.
No,
That would be wrong, and we both end up in HR.
very inappropriate. There's no- I do throw things at you.
So-
Next thing on.
Next thing on the list is website, and you've asked to put this onto the,
I just hear people complain about our website, for the town, and, it's difficult to use, hard to understand, it's difficult to find things.
you got this. Sorry, I'm sorry,
I did, yes. All right, thank you. And I thought we should bring it up for discussion about how a way to move forward that's better. I know we have a problem with some boards aren't represented on the website, and then I think that's what this thing here was, what you shared with me, right?
No, that was the other one. There's been 2 emails on that, so
All right.
I don't have the other one, I'm sorry.
Sorry. So I just think that we should put this on our agenda and move forward. I think, I know Tish does work on this, and maybe what we should do is have, 2 phases of this thing. First one is getting all the boards and commissions on there that they're not all there now. And the second one, and then looking for extraneous junk that we can remove, because there's lots of stuff from, 2012 and things. And then also, after that, do a little legwork this year, in terms of how it should look, and what should be there, and then fund it next year's budget.
I think that we need to find out what our parameters are, because we are working through as we know, following the Affordable Care Act, the government is outstanding at building websites.
Yeah.
So we need to find out who our provider is, what they're providing, and how we can customize to fit our needs, and and I'm gonna get to you in just a second, Ralph, because you were the email that I was referencing. How it should look and how it should operate.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Ralph.
Okay, yeah, I did send you an email regarding that. There's 2 locations on our town website, 2 pages where agendas and minutes for all boards, committees, commissions can be found. With the exception of those created under the Board of Selectmen, and there may be others. There's a drop down on the homepage that can take you to a list of the boards and commissions. There is another on that same drop down lower right corner. There is a link to all boards and commissions. In those 2 locations, we should have every active board, commission, or committee, so that people don't have to hunt to find agendas for upcoming meetings or minutes from past meetings. The attention span or the frustration at trying to find things can cause people to give up. And that's the last thing I would like to see. I would like people to be able to find stuff quickly, without much searching. So, I obviously outlined that in my email to you, Pete, and I
Yeah.
would hope that, our internet wizards, our home, our website wizards can take care of that in relatively short order.
Well, I admire your optimism. I don't, however, share it. I would like, what I would like to suggest is that, Matt, you work with Ralph and see what adjustments we can make early. And if you have questions to talk to Tish, you may be able to answer them, and to do a little research, because my current agenda does not include time to flip through the website, and make sure all the boards and commissions have their own separate thing. For instance, Ralph, I believe that the Emergency Services Efficiency Committee, all those agendas and minutes are found under Board of Selectmen.
That's correct.
So they're there, but that is not, unless you know that they're there, you're never gonna find them. So
That's
maybe
my point. Yes.
and that's the way I took your point. So let's see what we can do about that. We'll see what we can fix. All right?
Ralph, you wanna talk on the phone sometime soon?
I'm here.
Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
all right. Thank you. Additional information on websites. Go ahead.
Not on the website, but just kind of a suggestion for future, talking about the website, you said about provider, might be a good time, kind of like your insurance, to just quote it out, put out an RFP and, request for quotes.
Yes, from what I understand, there's 3 major providers for municipal websites.
Yeah.
And we went with, this one was chosen by a previous board.
Yeah.
And I am currently ignorant as to the.
Yeah, no, I'm not suggesting, but I'm saying, although,
Right.
the other suggestion on quoting it, and, we're talking about a lot of different projects. Do we reach out to any of the surrounding towns to see if they have similar work they need done and try to piggyback and put our
Yeah.
quotes together?
That's. One moment, Erica. That was one of the things under the town
All the bill got voted
cooperation
down?
bill that got voted down.
Okay,
Erica?
who's good?
Thank you, Peter. So the new website, or the current website,
Erica?
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
You're dropping out badly. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
And there we go.
The current website went into effect just prior to 2017, or maybe just in 2017. Just it was approved in the administration prior to the one I was part of. And so I would just caution you that as you're making cuts to your budget, you don't have any dollars to build a new website, and it is expensive. I would encourage you to look to what changes you want to see done. Civics Plus is the vendor that we use, and many other towns like Wellington, size like Wellington, use that vendor, and you can use it in a variety of different ways. I would also ask Selectman Clark, what kinds of junk from 2012 is it that you see on the website that you don't think should be there?
All right, Erica, can you hear us now?
I've
Yeah.
unmuted myself. Did you not hear anything I said?
We did
No,
not, the
Rob.
town hall, internet just cut out.
Okay.
We lost
All right.
all.
So the administration prior to the one I was a part of actually is the one that approved the current website that we have. And I would caution you that as you're making cuts to your budget, you don't have a budget to create a new website. I would encourage you to look at ways you want to alter, improve what we do have, and work within that scope, what we can do on our own. Many towns, same size as Willington, use Civics Plus, which is
I'm
our
sorry, you're cutting
vendor.
out badly.
Civics Plus is our vendor. I would encourage you to look at other websites and why they were chosen, but I would ask Selectman Clark why or what kinds of junk that he sees on the website. He referenced things from 2012 that might be junk. I'd be curious what kinds of things he believes that is.
Yeah, it's just older files. I was surprised when I got on there to find, minutes and things like that from so long ago. There may be a need to have them stay there forever. I really don't know. I was just surprised to see them. I've never been on a website that we go back for 12 years and have files there. That's all.
I will say that I've used that feature many, many, many times for folks that don't have the ability to go into our vault during business hours, which we know are always, not always the most appealing to folks. The ability to find things that we do have to keep for forever, albeit not necessarily on the website, are actually very handy, that you can go back and you can look at records, you can research things. Using the website. I think that is a vital piece of information.
Thank you. And we apologize to everybody online that the internet in the building is currently unstable. We're attempting to fix that through our fiber provider, who is, for those interested in the budget, doing it 100% cost, no cost to us. Amazingly enough, they found money someplace else, not mine. You have a report from the Economic Development Committee?
I don't have a report from the Economic Development Committee, but I do have encourage people to sign on to and take a look at the YouTube videos that we're having. We continue to work with our consultants, and if anybody has any input on economic development issues, you can reach me at mclark at wellingtonct.gov, or you can reach out to Mike D'Amato also, who helps manage the committee. So our next step will be public outreach. So in the coming weeks, we'll set an agenda for how to gather information from the public and have a hearing for a meeting to help people understand where people's heads are at. We had a large project fail, planning and zoning recently, probably too large for our town. I think we need a little bit of a reboot or an understanding or a consensus about how we should be developing. Everyone wants to have, maintain the character of our town, which is very important. We need to also balance that with our need for revenue. As we've been talking about today, there's two sides to this equation. The first side is what our needs are and what our spending is, and the other side is our revenue side. So they have a little tiny group of volunteers on the Economic Development Commission that sort of looks at how to increase our grand list. So if people can have any suggestions or ideas, please reach out, give you some, or you can call Pete's office.
There's also a current ongoing study, so if you're interested in contributing to that, contact Mike D'Amato and he'll put you in touch with the company that we've contracted with to figure some of that out.
Thank you.
Anything, you have anything on that? Just, we're on a roll. FOI. Speaking to Nick at the beginning, we have received your second FOI filing. It is currently with the law firm to see what we can do about that. And not what we have to do, but what we can do. We have researched some of the electronic records. I have spoken to Novus. They had the plan that they planned to implement, but not the results of it. So there is some confusion there. We are trying to clear that up. And as soon as we figure some of this out from a legal and financial standpoint, we will be getting back to you. But I contacted the lawyers think last Wednesday, hoping for an update for tonight for you, and I have not heard back from them. I've got lots of paperwork in with the lawyers right now. I think that we may be their only client now. Old business. The assessment, the reevaluation contract has been signed. Our town assessor, Kara, has been meeting with the company. The letters, there's been 2 letters that have been drafted. There will be 2 individuals going around town to reevaluate property. They have identification with them, identifying them as evaluators, and a letter signed by me with them to show who they are. Troop C has also been notified so that if there's a dispute on their presence, Troop C is aware of what's going on.
When did that start?
Soon, very soon. I don't have a date for you. But I would guess sometime later this month, early next month. The reevaluation is supposed to be done every 6 years. It hasn't been done for 7 years. We had an extension due to COVID, so we are currently in progress with that.
That revaluation, that doesn't change people's tax bills per se, it just. Well.
Right, it may affect it won't affect their tax rate, it may affect their taxes. If the mill rate remains the same, but they now own a more expensive piece of property, they will be taxed at a higher amount.
Carl Pearson, 55 Permian Road. Is there a legal requirement that the resident must let those people into the home?
I do not believe so. They may ask you, but they're primarily for exterior dimensions.
They're not actually allowed on your property at all if you don't want them to.
They will make the assessment.
You can tell them they can make the assessment from the street. Thank you.
I would guess there's Fourth Amendment issues, but I am not enough of a lawyer to tell you what they are. Anyways, we're back to present to speak. Is there anybody in the room present to speak? Nick?
Yeah, so I think you guys did a great job running the meeting, allowing dialogue, back and forth. I think that encourages people to come out. So thank you for doing that. I have a question, I don't know if you can answer, but why does the attorney have the call written as such and not written in a manner to where it would be voted to send to a town referendum?
It's to comply and comport with our town's ordinances. Our town's ordinance is written so that that's the way it works.
But could we have it where it was voted?
We could hold a town meeting, change the ordinance, and do it differently next time. But we have to follow the town ordinances as they're written now. And to rewrite a town ordinance is not a overnight matter.
Okay. I don't understand any pushback in making sure that people have a public hearing on the budget. We should want to give the people the opportunity to speak to any revised budget, especially if we are set to raise the mill rate by, it seems like 5%, we're still gonna be high, which is not fiscally responsible. Businesses have to lay people off. Unfortunately, governments have to do the same. And I don't know why we're not doing that. Concern for a safety standpoint, so when I come out of Myrtle, numerous times, people headed northbound on 320, you got a rock wall there. It's almost like you gotta step on, you can floor it to get through there. I don't know, continuously an issue. Does the first selectman, do you oversee other boards?
I am an ex officio member of most boards.
Okay, I'm just curious on that. And while sitting here, I was trying to run through some other towns, starting A to all the way to Z. I've only gone through like 8 towns, but I noticed that mill rate increases, just not gonna go each town, but just 0.6, 0.9, 3.9, negative went down 14.3, 1.2, 2.
Hi, Christina, I'm sorry we lost contact there for a second. Once again, we got hit with a drop out.
That's okay. I just wanted to go back to the comments about the website and some of the older things that are on there. And one of the things that I would encourage you to go back and look at are the old CIP minutes, going back to 2009, and even earlier than that. I don't know if those are up, but you will see that a lot of these things, all of these road projects, some of the school projects, some of almost everything, to be honest, has been on there for years and years and years and years. And I sat in that chair for 8 years, and every single year, this is what it came down to. My biggest regret from those whole 8 years is that I did not fight harder than I did each year to keep those things in and to make progress on some of these projects. And I don't want to speak for Erica, but I'm guessing she feels the same. And it's just unfortunate that this is where we're at. And I know I tried really hard all of those years. I know Erica tried hard all of her years. And
Did we lose her?
oh,
I'm
did you?
sorry, Christina, we lost you there.
Oh, sorry. Which I don't know where I was rambling, but basically my big.
We appreciate you rambling, however.
Okay,
I'm sorry, our internet connection is off, and I will be making a call tomorrow.
well, I don't know if you heard, my whole point was that I have regrets of not fighting harder back then and over the last 6 years when I wasn't first selectman but on the CIP committee, and now because every year we do this, and now you're going to be a part of this legacy as well, and you'll see in 10 years they're going to blame you too, and it doesn't feel good because you know that you tried. But anyway, that's all I have to say. Read the minutes.
Christina.
They're fun.
Oh, I sat through many of those meetings. Erica?
Thank you. I want to echo some of Christina's sentiments. Peter, you sat on a board, and Matt, you did too for a short period of time, where you heard me aggressively fighting for more funds, and it didn't always turn out that way. I would have much preferred this board take a different approach and look at how you could have made, $5,000 cuts across the board of general government budgets instead of hitting once again at our infrastructure and our investments into our community. I think those are really important. But Peter, I can appreciate where you came from, and they aren't easy cuts to make, but I think we need to stop looking at a very small 1 year at a time picture and understand that when you sit at the table and you're talking about road projects that have been on the books for over 30 years and we've made no progress, one first selectman after another, we are failing our community in getting them to understand why we've asked for the funds that we've had. And so I would just encourage you to look at it maybe through a different lens if it comes down to it once again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mitch Sava, 80 Grant Road, Mermanstein. I think what you've done with the budget is fine by me. We still haven't increased it, CHIP. I have to understand that better. We're still increasing the funds, so I don't see a problem there. I do agree with someone who made a comment earlier. I think that if this is a private company, we talk about return on investment. We look at actual cuts. Something the government rarely if ever does is actual cuts. I outlined some things at the beginning of the meeting. I'm going to send those off to the Board of Finance. And hopefully the town can work together and either find revenue sources by making more businesses to help boost our grand list. Or we can make the hard decisions and they make cuts so that we can handle the requirements that we have coming down the road. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no more hands, I'm gonna move on. Good and welfare. Oh, wait a minute, we have one more old business thing to do. I apologize profusely for that. We will need to set a Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, the 28th. To follow the Board of Finance meeting. So that we can call a town meeting, so that the town meeting can call a referendum. And we need to do this. I wouldn't wait for the following week because. As the calendar already shows. We will not have, even if the referendum passes, we won't have a budget in time to set the mill rate for the tax collector. I spoke to the tax collector and she has told me that under Connecticut General Statute, section 12-123, the Board of Selectmen must set a temporary mill rate in time for her to send the bills. After the mill rate is set by the Board of Finance, there will be a supplemented tax bill sent out in January to correct all that. So Monday the 28th.
Tuesday, it's Tuesday.
Tuesday the 28th. I'm sorry, we're not meeting on Monday because Monday is Memorial Day and some of us are busy. Tuesday, 12 noon. All right. What's good for you, Andy?
I'm available.
Let's make it 1 PM. That way we can make sure we make sure we file the agenda. And set up
I'll do it tonight.
I think you already did it, didn't you? Zoom's already done. Good to go. Good and welfare. Anything for good and welfare? I do have two things. First, I again encourage everyone to join us on the town green at 8 AM for Memorial Day. Shannon has been working with Ed DeGata, and we are hoping to have a solemn and respectful ceremony along with the BFW. The second thing is this is National Public Works Worker Recognition Week. I don't know if I got that wording exact, but let's thank our public works employees who have been here at when the weather is the worst, when nobody else wants to be out. They've been doing a tremendous amount of work.
How many are there?
I believe there's Troy plus 4. Troy plus 4 full-time, and then we have 2 part-timers that work at the transfer station. See, it's one.
National
2.
Public Works Week.
Okay, thank you. I posted it on Facebook and then it immediately went. Do we have anything else for good and welfare? Do I hear a move to adjourn?
I'll second that.
Thank you, sir. All in favor? Aye. Thank you for attending. Oh.